Hi, everybody. This is day 1318, I believe, and just going through a lot of information. Let's check to see if I'm on. It looks like I'm on. Good. Okay. All right. So let's get started. So we've had some developing situations that required some more letters and uh, going out to lots of people because of um, the level of harassment, the level of threats, and the, you know, it seems like if I had to guess, well, maybe I shouldn't give up who I think is behind all this. But what's important is that Bob Moore chimed in on, he seems to like convicted criminals. He uses them he likes criminals. Seems like he really likes criminals. El Paso Matters likes criminals. It seems to me that they really love criminals, and I think they really associate with criminals. It seems to me that El Paso Matters really loves criminals. Um, so they associate, and that is really concerning because it seems to be for political agendas. Okay, so you associate with criminals for a political agenda. Wow. Um, that's that's really telling because that breaks the 501c3 that he has to abide by to be tax free uh, and in cahoots with KTEP, with UTEP, with Borderzine. His wife is Catherine Gannon of Borderzine for UTEP and is Angela Kachurga's boss. But I don't know if she's Angela Kachurga's boss. I think that is a ruse. I think that's a ruse. I think Angela Kachurga has another boss. But yeah, it's because Angela Kachurga called, right? Um, she called and she was really not concerned at all about the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. She was not concerned at all about the border situation. She was not concerned at all about the forced disappearance of Richard, our evidence to support that, the murder of Richard, the evidence to support that. She wasn't interested in soldiers, missing soldiers, murdered soldiers. She wasn't interested in that at all. She was interested in the law, okay? In the law. Because there's something um, that's what they fear. Why do they fear that? Because they like to associate with criminals. They have proven that by using unreliable sources. So they fear the law. And are they outlaws? Are they lawless? Are they up to no good? Because they fear the law. That's what a whole hour of speaking with her showed. And we have tried to contact Bob Moore of El Paso Matters no less than 10 times. And he and the board of directors and the board of regents and all of that. And he knows that, um, we were trying to get a hold of him, trying to talk to him, but yet he he rather talk to criminals. He rather associate with criminals. He rather associate with criminals that are suspects in the murder of a U.S. soldier. He rather associate with criminals that are suspects in the worst kind of way and use them as unreliable sources. That's who he chooses to communicate with. That's who he chooses to promote. That's who he chooses to align himself with. And, you know, that's really needs to be out there in public because no wonder, no wonder there was not really any investigation into Glendon Oakley Jr.'s situation, his death, um, because you know who was assigned to that? See, Dirty Agent Marlon Soto was assigned to look into, right, to investigate Glendon Oakley Jr.'s death. Now, if that doesn't put, um, make you shake your head, I don't know what can because um, uh, Marlon Soto is so dirty, and Tavita Nusa, of course, also the CID. And, as parents, you don't know these things. You don't know that there's all these family connections. You do not know that there are all these conflicts of interest that create criminal conflicts of interest. You do not know that there's all this crime going on in our law enforcement agencies, um, that they're up to no good. And so you just believe what they say. And it's just needs to get out that these people that align with criminals, that have become criminals, that have obstructed justice, that do not do their due diligence, do not abide by their oath, that needs to get out because we pay a lot of money, a lot of money, millions and billions, up to and trillions for our law enforcement and our defense. And people need to know that we're getting shafted, that we need our money back, that we need to clean house, that we need to clean up these uniforms, that we need to absolutely have a different oversight structure and also a different nominating structure. We can't have the politics choosing our generals, that's for sure. And, you know, um, yeah, we really need to look into the whole law enforcement thing. And even with all of that, the truth um, is hanging in there. It always comes up. It always comes up, right? And the law is still being feared. And look at what they resorted to with President Trump. They resorted to lawfare to take the law and try to turn it into a weapon. And what's happening is they're falling in their own traps. They're falling in their own traps. Look at Fani Willis. She totally fell into her own trap. And, with this lawless behavior, the law catches up. And you cannot say that it is okay to hire your boyfriend and pay them almost $1 million and go on trips with them and say that you're paying cash, cash back. You're not getting any of that the perks from that benefit. No, no, no. And all of those text messages and all of the phone calls, thousands of text message and phone call, and say, "Oh no, we didn't have a relationship back then," and think that people will believe it. It's ridiculous. And here she is, the district attorney, and acting like this. And I'm here to tell you that Bill Hicks is even worse because I don't even believe he's a district attorney. I have a hard time calling him District Attorney Bill Hicks because I don't even think he couldn't even get into his oath of office properly. I don't think so. I don't think he is district attorney. And so he's just fooling us. And this is why, maybe this is why Judge Madrano has such a hard time doing anything. He won't even schedule like a mental health evaluation for demand it. I want the results of a mental health evaluation of Patrick Crusius, right? I want to hear it because the federal judge said that Patrick Crusius has a severe mental health condition. So where is um, that that evaluation? I want to see it, right? Because this is important to the whole case. Because would he be able, with all of these other witness statements about these multiple shooters, right, and the brown tip bullets and the M4s, and now we know that Chris Grant is a total criminal, but see, they align with the criminal. Bob Moore is aligning with the criminals. So is who's protecting, because he's being protected. Who's protecting Ernest Christopher Grant? Who's protecting him? And why? Is he an agent? That's the only thing that I can think of, is he's an agent of deception. That's why they're protecting him. And that he has connections with uh, the the crimes that were perpetrated on August 3rd, 2019. That he has connections with the crimes that were perpetrated, from deriving from and going onward in from August 3rd, 2019, the Walmart mass shooting, with others, and has connections with others. And we know that he has connections with others. And those others have connections with those in Richard's case. That's why these two cases are totally connected. I mean, you have um, Danae Katzen's family claiming Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia as a family member. Okay? As a family member. I wonder if they claim Mario Rascon Ortiz a family member. I'm wondering. Or would that be Felix Valenzuela that's doing that? I don't know. Because this 3905 Bliss Avenue, and how many people are they claiming? Right? So, but this connects. You see, Danae Katzen, and I really should put up all the videos we have of her and all the audios, because this connects with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, the Walmart case. The Walmart case and Richard's case connect there. And they connect in other places too. So the two cases are one case. And it's really, it took a lot of investigative work, a lot of investigative research to put all this together, to see the importance of Belen Rocha in all of this, to see the importance of Danae Katzen in all of this, to see the importance of James Courtney Hart in all of this, because he's always kind of like back in the taking the back seat a little bit, because he has a very sensitive job being Pablo IDES, right? Because he's the one that can give out those 100% disability um, statuses, and people get the benefits, and then they're like, "Oh, you're king, you're the king because I got my 100% disability." I get my check. It's worth more than Social Security. Okay, and so he's like the king of 100% disability, right? Getting some disability. How close can you get me? And so of course that would then like create conflicts of interest. Absolutely would cause conflicts of interest. um and so he's like taking in the back seat on all of this, but I think that he is not really is not really in the back seat. You just don't see him too much. But yeah, it we have to wrap our heads around how important people are, because everything kind of leads to Lalani Hart. Maybe they want everything to lead to Lalani Hart because they're throwing her under the bus. They Tavita Nusa lost his badge. Lalani Hart, everything leads to Lalani Hart. They're putting her in the news media, and that puts a focus on her, and then you do some research on her and you find that she's a convicted criminal with a long criminal history. Maybe that's all on purpose to focus on how criminal she is so that you don't focus on some of the bigger criminals. um, maybe that's the case. Maybe we should look at Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado and what he's up to, and also to Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr. and his wife Cynthia Hernandez. And Bugado's mother could tell us, Katerina um, um, Mendenhall. So it's looking at new people right now, because maybe we're missing something. Maybe we're missing something that will trigger, because it is very apparent that people are afraid, and they're afraid of um, retaliation. Of course they are, because they've seen what they've done to Glendon Oakley Jr. They've seen what they did to Richard Halliday. They've seen what they did to Asia Graham. These are all victims of retaliation. And, so they were shaking. I know it for a fact they were shaking. I even was able to videotape the voice of one of those shaking. And even the command sergeant major, Jake Jakovitz, was absolutely shaking voice. And the dirty liaison, right? The lousy liaison, um, who got caught uh, being up to no good in our son's case, said, well, he has a medical problem or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, he can go tell that to James Hart and he gets his disability check, right? But no, he looked fine. Um, he was shaking because something else, something else with Clem Coward, something else with the prior general, of course, and Matlock. And Matlock, I mean, the barracks were uh, in audit. They were flush with weapons. All the barracks on Fort Bliss, they had a huge weapons problems, and they still have a huge weapons problems. From even 2023, we received information uh, that there was all these unregistered weapons, and it's kind of like these brown tip bullets that we received a tip that those were found at the August 3rd, 2019 murder scene, mass shooting scene. And, please, God help us if they are military issued and were smuggled, right? Were smuggled and sold and or used or whatever with these M4s, because the one big thing is that, there's a smuggling problem. There's a lot of criminal. It has been very profitable to, and that's why they want an army. That's why they want war, because it's very profitable to have these young volunteer soldiers in barracks where you can sell them drugs, where you can sell them alcohol, where you can sell them medical care, because the medical care comes from taxpayers. The same thing with everything, right? It's all taxpayer funded, and that's why there's $3 trillion in one shot failed audit from the Pentagon. There, we have a real problem with the Pentagon costing us trillions of dollars that are unaccounted for, right? And don't tell me it's for secret this or secret that. No, no. That would be in the accounting top secret things. No, this is failed trillions of dollars. We don't know where. It's kind of like these 85,000 missing children from 2021 to 2022 on Fort Bliss. Where are the 85,000 missing children? Don't tell me that they didn't account for them, because they did, but they're missing. And I think that there's some people that absolutely know that's in accounting. And I'm just wondering, is Bradford Bugado in accounting? Who's in accounting in that G3 office? I mean, who's in accounting? Who does the numbers? And I would like to know if those numbers are fudged. And because, absolutely, Richard, he he clept out of 6 credit hours college mathematics when he was 15 years old. He knew numbers. He knew numbers, and what did he see with that? Did he see some fudged numbers? Because he would know that they were fudged numbers. When you clep out of college math at 15 years old, you can see fudged numbers. So, it wasn't just the Child Protective Service complaints he made other complaints. And there was just, there had to be, we're talking 3.5 years, 3.5 years, and we're getting retaliated against, okay? The missing, by asking these questions. These are reasonable questions from a family that has a missing, murdered soldier son that has not received the remains back. We have not received our son's remains. They are in denial mode, and we have evidence upon evidence upon evidence that he was absolutely targeted, retaliated against, by force, removed from his barracks room, and murdered and dismembered and buried in multiple locations. So, we do not have our son's remains. And so these are for something like that to happen, these are very reasonable questions in a reasonable way to ask. Why are they keeping from us that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader? Why don't they even why don't they just let us meet Richard's platoon leader? Because absolutely they have to. Absolutely, but they rather commit crimes than tell the truth. And the truth behind this unit, the truth behind the chain of command, which is Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM. And Matlock and Clem Coward, well, really not Matlock, but Clem Coward, absolutely, and Michael Garrett. There's something funny. There's something funny going on with that with Dreams Cabaret. Because Dreams Cabaret could be used when we've done our research now. Dreams Cabaret could be used to launder the money. And, it just gets dangerous because the crimes are so big, and there's so much at risk for some of these people in high places that have connections, and that will not care about us down here. They won't care about the law abiding citizen. They won't care about the volunteer son and daughter of our country. They won't care about our country and what this criminal enterprise, how it develops and how it harms our country. Because, you commit crimes, you do it across the border, so binational crimes get very complicated because then it involves the corruption of two nations cooperating law enforcement agencies. So then it hurts those communities because you have corrupted law enforcement agencies on both sides of the border, and then you make this money, and then you have to develop these LLCs. You have to start these LLCs to launder the money through, and go back and forth through the border, and then that causes illegal immigration, right? Uh, that causes fraud because then people are like, oh, put me on your address. Let me use your social security number. Let me do, for this illegal immigration problems. And then we have identity theft, see? And then, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And it just creates a criminal society. And, you know, um, favors favors within the agencies, and also it skews the whole economy because they start laundering money through um, property, right? They start laundering it through mortgages and insurances. So, because they need to get more false identities. And it just really balloons out of control. And so, for all those criminals out there, this is not really personal. This is about the future of our country. I want my son's remains, and this is the future. I want the future of our country to not be criminal, to be law abiding. Now, I don't know if little me, Team Farm Richard Halliday, uh, has the know how, but God does. God does. And so I'm just going to side with God on this and let God play this out. And if He wants us to speak out, we will speak out. Do not hide your light under the bushel. No, right? Do not hide your light. What is light? The light is God. The light is righteousness, which means justice, which means law abiding. So, if we're going to speak out, if we're going to expose the lawlessness, it's not like personal with the criminals, right? It's personal with me, with our family when it comes to the murder of Richard. Of course, it's personal, but it's clearly for El Pasoans, for the United States, why they should care in the cases of the Walmart case, and also Richard's case. It's clearly for the well-being of our country, the health of our country. And, when we have this open borders and these unsecured installations, and we don't have oversight, and we have just one crime developing into another crime, and people taking advantage of our system and our agencies and using them to the detriment of others to enrich themselves, there's a problem. Absolutely a problem. And if someone calls them out, they get very bitter. I can tell you, we've been through vile and vulgar months and months of vile and vulgar harassment, threats, just bullying, and they get really angry. Like Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, he's angry. That's why it's like, why can't I? Why can't Patricia understand? I want to side with criminals because I want my wealth now. I don't want to wait for my inheritance. I want to still cheat, commit fraud, whatever it takes so that I can get my wealth now. Because to use unreliable sources is fraud, fraud against the public. To tamper with an elected official is cheating. And he did that. And we have it in the open records. So Bob Moore is up to no good. And he doesn't care about the public. He doesn't care about those 230,000 voters that voted for their DA. He worked and was successful at taking her down. And I think that that is, he needs to be arrested. He needs to be arrested for the fraud, waste, and abuse that he has perpetrated on the public, using the tax-free status, using the disguise of an El Paso Matters. It really should be Bob Moore Matters, because it's just a totally selfish enterprise that he's, has been engaged in, like, and in a political attack machine, right, for this political agenda. So, because he's not alone, and that can only describe the attacks that we have gotten the last day. Terrible attacks. So, and you can say, well, have you put out the information about Leilani? Yes, Leilani is a convicted criminal. I didn't lie about her. Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia is a criminal. I didn't lie about her. It's out there in the news. Dallas Hart is a suspect in our son's forced disappearance and murder. I've never lied about that. He's Richard's platoon leader, and his face matches the Interpol face. His face matches the Interpol picture better than Richard's. Richard's is like at maybe at 25%, and Dallas Hart is at like over 80%. His face matches the forensics testing better than Richard's, and they submitted that into the Interpol, which seems to be superimposed with a Dallas Hart's face. Yeah, so we're inquiring about that. And now, it's just a lot of identity theft, a lot of insurance theft, a lot of real estate money laundering, this LLC that needs to be looked at, lots of criminal activity, and absolutely there is deception in the Walmart case. Absolutely, it was not a lone wolf shooting. There are murderers walking the street right now. Absolutely, murderers walking the street. So, and where is Patrick Crucius? Because Patrick Crucius needs to be at these status hearings, and we need to hear what he has to say, because he could probably tell us by now, by being in solitary confinement, he might be sick and tired of it. He could tell us who was there, who helped him with everything, and what really happened. And I think if he was given a chance, he would do it. He would do it. And I think it was a military trained operation, clearly a military trained operation. And I'm praying very, very hard that the weapons and that the brown tip bullets were not part of August 3rd Walmart mass shooting. I'm praying that it was not part of that. But um, from what I'm hearing, it was a military trained incident. Was more than one person. There were uh, supposedly brown tip bullets at the scene. We know through the immediate eyewitness testimony of Glendon Oakley Jr., who was found dead in April of 2020 in his barracks room on Fort Bliss, that there were uh, individuals, lots of individuals with M4s, and he called them mall cops. So they must have been in like uniforms, like all black. And this is what the witnesses were saying. And he even thought that that was a response team. So we have a lot of unanswered questions. We need a trial date. But at the status hearings, we have a judge that violated his own his own canons for the conduct of a judicial officer by breaking his gag order himself and using the media to speak directly to the community to ensure the community that the attorneys in this case are good. No, they're not. They have been sucking dry millions of dollars and not doing their work and leaving these cases in pieces. That's what they've been doing. And the judge is breaking his gag order to tell the community through the media. Judges are not supposed to do that, because then they are possibly tampering with the jury pool. I think this is very important. I hope you cut that part out and share that bit of information. I think that's very, very important to share. That Judge Madrano um, has done something that is like, what in the world is going on? And so, because from our point of view, knowing that these two cases are interwoven together with the same people, that absolutely they absolutely know that Richard was forcibly removed from the barracks, was murdered, and they've covered it up. And it's the same people, and it's a criminal enterprise. And we have Ken Paxton that is saying that the border, because this is a binational crime with Richard's remains being found partially in Mexico. And you have Ken Paxton saying that the cartel are running the border. And we've been told for years by different individuals the cartel are not involved in this. Trust me, I know. Really? You know that the cartel's not? When you have um, the Department of State federal agents sitting across the table from Chihuahua state agents giving them equipment, and these state agents let's just say the cartel is running the border. The cartel is running the border, and they've got a grip They've got a grip on your wallet, on my wallet, on the American economy. They've got a grip on our defense. They've got a grip on our law enforcement community. They've got a grip on the El Pasoans, on all the towns. They got us. They're just like, we got you. Yeah. Um, and don't forget, I went to school in El Paso. I went to school. I was born at White Sands. I went to Bassett. That was a pretty rough school. That was a pretty rough school. I went there. Oh yes, I did. That was a rough school. The cartel are running the border. And Richard, being raised in Ireland, in the middle of Ireland, in the Midlands, with the cows and the sheep and our property, and he joined the army and he thought he was going to be mentored, um, that there would be oversight, that four-star generals would have a love for their country and a duty, the love for their duty to the country. And he found out real quick um, that it's quite the opposite. And um, and he thought, okay, no way. The law has to be obeyed, and we need to report this to change it because we're on a slippery slope into the darkness where there's going to be crying and gnashing of teeth, right? That's what happens, crying and gnashing of teeth. The crime reaches out. Look at they, the army, uh, how tyrannical they were with the COVID mandates. It was absolutely unnecessary. Absolutely. Anybody in medicine knows that that was absolutely unnecessary because our troops are young. And now they have hurt so many of our troops. They're having all kinds of reactions. And so many were thrown out, and so many had to get out. And now we have a depleted national defense. So, yeah, that's wow. With leaders like this, who needs enemies? So I'm looking forward to giving Trump another try. Um, I, for one, remember those years before the whole COVID mandate thing was thrust upon us. Um, I remember those years as being pretty wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And everybody seemed to be doing so well, and inflation was nothing, and um, energy was so cheap, so cheap. And I've always wondered this. Um, they say they care about our health, they say they care about the environment, all that, but yet they charge us too much for our water. They don't, you know, no, I think our taxes should cover water, period, and water should be just flowing everywhere, and it should be a right to life issue. I really believe water should be, for cleanliness, for the plants, we should be able, water is so plentiful. And of course, they have all kinds of devices now to very, very cheaply take salt out of water, desalinize it. Water is everywhere, should be used everywhere, very clean. It should be super, super clean. I've talked about this numerous times. There is no excuse for us to have dirty water. We should have very clean water. And if they talk about environment and everything so much, that should be like what they're working on. But they're not, because they don't care. They're like Angela Kachurga. oh, I cover the border and I care about people. But no, no, that's not what's behind the scenes. If anybody has read the book Little Dorrit or watched the movie Little Dorrit, it's that Santa Claus looking guy that gives all the appearance of goodness, but has none of it, right? All the appearance, but when you are in private with them, they are like, squeeze them harder, Paxton, right? Squeeze them harder. What is his name? The guy that's supposed to tax them hard and whatever. Um, anyway, yeah, it's they they're just up to no good. And I wish everybody would have seen if I could have videotaped the conversation with Angela Kachurga because it was very, very clear she doesn't care. And what she feared most is the law. And and that means she's up to no good, right? If she fears the law. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Praying for justice. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, um, praying for justice against these people that issue threats and harass and just because you are standing up and asserting your right to free speech and saying, look, I don't want to live in a criminal syndicate society, right? I don't want to do that. I want a law-abiding society. So thank you, everyone. God bless you. Keep praying. And Rob and I were talking today about keeping going, and there are there are those that say, look, this is too big. This is just too big. These people are in the FBI and they're in the CBP and they're in the DES and they're in the DHS and they're in the DOS and they're in the VA and they're in the the universities and they're you know and on the CID and um, it's just so big. And I go back to this lesson that I learned that Rob and I learned through this Bible study. And it was, do you know how Jesus cusses people out? How did he cuss his disciples out? How did he do that? How did he get mad at them and reprimand them, right? What did he say to them? And he said, ye of little faith, ye of little faith. So we were talking about that today, and we thought, okay, we're going to do what God expects us to do, and you know, and just have faith that He can bring down those walls, that He can bring down the giants with the little pebbles, that He can assert righteousness where there is so much crime. So, thank you, everyone. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.